Okay, so we've got the piece of cane on an easel now. These are easels that I make. And some of the tools that you see in these videos are available on my website. The easel has got a border here and a border here to hold the cane in place, and also has the wire measurements, and there's a collar measurement there, tip if you want it, and center mark, tip, collar, first wire, second wire, third wire. So you can mark everything you need at this stage if you want to do it that way. So I also have this scoring tool here. It's got 5 blades to it, and that's what I like, 5 scores. And the end is contoured to match the curvature of the cane. So to score, I like to score right from the collar and go all the way back like that. Doesn't need to be a very heavy score. And then to score on the other side, it's the same idea. And you're done. Now, if you'd like to mark your wire placements, you can do that. I think it's a good idea to file them in, because if you're wrapping the reed with any string or rubber band, I use rubber bands, a pencil mark will disappear when you do that. So if you want to use the edge of a file, try to find a file that has a knife edge on it, like this half round file. A triangular file works really well too. And put your finger where that mark is for your first wire. And you can put a little file mark. It doesn't need to be big, just so you can find it when you come back to it. It doesn't have to be a complete mark. And let's do the last one. I'm only going to do one side, because when we fold this over, we won't need to have both sides marked. So that's where we're headed. Now let's turn this around, and I'm going to score the center line. So I put my knife up to the red mark here, which is at 60 millimeters, and just score like that. You just barely need to break the surface with your knife. And then some people use a razor blade or a straight edge. I don't think it's necessary if you have scored through there just like that. And there's your folded reed. And then just pinch the fold shut so it's uniform. One thing to check here is the important thing to line up is not the butt ends, but the shoulders or the collars. That's because that's where your profile starts on both sides. So for me, I use my fingernails like this. And if my fingernails line up, I'm happy. That means my collars are lined up. Okay, now we're going to put the first wire on and wrap it and form the tube. Okay, my process is a little fussy, but there's a good reason for it, which I'll explain when we do beveling. Okay, so if you buy a 7-inch rubber band, you can get these at an off supply store and cut the rubber band. That's good for wrapping your reed. So put the ends of the reed together like this, and make sure that there's no overlap. So pinch it like this, and also check those shoulders again. If this is off and one shoulder is up high compared to the other, you can pinch the fold and move the one blade forward and one blade back with your fingers by massaging it this way. This piece I scored just right, so I'm not going to have to do that with this piece. Now, find where I scored or filed my first wire mark, about right there. And I'm going to put this wire on. Let me do that again. That's not enough wire on the other side. I cut this a little short. Yeah, send me another one, will you?
Do you want to cut another one?
No, no, I think I can get that one on the third wire. Okay, we're still rolling?
Yep.
Okay, so let's put the first wire on. And I found my file mark, so I'm going to put the wire over that. Try to have them meet in a triangle over the center of the width of the cane. Grab it with the pliers like this and hold it like this so that you're going to pull out and twist at the same time. And I like to turn in a counterclockwise direction. I think it makes no difference whatsoever what you do there. And then carefully nudge the wire in place over your filed wire mark so that it's exactly at 1 inch. My reads are from the butt end to the first wire in between the two wraps, exactly at 1 inch. For me, that's the most important wire measurement and the one that can slip during the reed making process. So I check it again during the later stages of the reed making. So I want to get rid of any slack in this, so I'm going to pull out and twist a little bit more, but I'm going to watch to see that I don't dig a groove in here. We don't want to constrict the cane, but we want this wire to be very, very snug so that it will absorb any of the cracking that comes from rounding back here, and that won't go into the blade and cause cracking. Just to get the wire out of the way, I'm going to clip off the excess. And now the fun begins with the rubber bands. So the idea here is to loosely wrap the rubber band on the top part of the reed, maybe one layer above the first wire, and as you go down wrapping, you want to increase the tension. So as the tube moves from being oval to round, the rubber band needs to be more tight. Okay. Now it's very easy to cause the blades to slip by doing this process incorrectly. So what you must do, believe me, it would be easier to wrap in one direction, but that will cause the cane to warp and your blades will slip. So you need to wrap in both directions, which is why I bisect the rubber band with the piece of cane. So I go in one direction first, just wrapping very gently. I'm not pulling on this very much at all. And I keep going round and round behind, like so, wrapping until I reach the end. Don't go all the way down, it'll tend to fall off if you do that. And you can see the color and the width of the band changing because of the tension I'm putting on it. Okay, hold it in place by pinching it down like that. Now come back and wrap the other way with the other one, like that. Increase the tension as you go down, like that. Okay. Make them meet. Hold it in place like that. Now, for stability, take the pin vise with the forming mandrel in it. Hold this and part way insert the forming mandrel. Don't go all the way. It'll crack the reed if you do. So you put it in just part way. Now, put the pin vise against your chest or your belly, and you've got a little extra support. Pinch the wires together and finish tying them off so you can free your hands up. You want to apply extra pressure with your knot. Do 2 knots so that it won't slip. Just like that. Okay, so you've got 2 knots. That's going to stay in place. Now, very important, open the first wire up slightly before full insertion. Okay. This mandrel pin will go up to and past the first wire. So if there's not enough space inside for it to pass through, what's going to give? Well, the cane will crack. So we've got to open this up just a little bit. You don't need to over round, but just a tiny bit of rounding here is good. By the way, the cane has been well soaked. Okay, we're not doing this dry. Now, another thing to keep the cane from spiraling and from your blade slipping is when you insert the mandrel all the way, you want to go back and forth and mostly push. If you go in one direction, it will spiral and your blades will slip. And my mandrel pins are made with a shoulder on them so that they always go to the same depth each time. Okay. Now the beauty of this system is then you can unchuck the pin vise and then put this on your drying rack. Okay. Let's talk about drying then. Good drying period is about 2 weeks. If you need to rush, if you're in a hurry, a few days will work. But what we need is for this cane to dry out and for the shaping of the curvature of the cane back here to be stable. Okay. The reason I use the rubber bands is that for my beveling procedure, I need to have a hard shell semicircle on both sides here for the bevel to work. So this goes on my drying rack, and I'm going to look at it again in 2 weeks.